Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Orange First. I'm Lionel Bienvenu. Orange First, right here on the Denver Channel, your first look back at the Broncos game that was, and your first look ahead to the Broncos game that will be. As always, with me, my partners in crime. I'm sorry, guys, I called you criminals, but that's just the way it goes. Woody Page and Troy Rank. All right, guys, let's start off the show with the Pump the Brakes. Brought to you by Brakes Plus. We look back at the game in Tampa. They're 4-0. They won 27-7. Aqib Talib, Trevor Siemian got things started. Paxton Lynch finished it off. What was your big takeaway from the game in Tampa, Troy?
That they can pretty much win with any quarterback, Lionel. They've won with Peyton Manning, Brock Osweiler, Siemian, and now Paxton Lynch in the span of 13 months. Their defense allows them margin for error that's very unusual for this league. It really doesn't matter who's under center at times. And the fact that if their defense gets to consistently play with the lead, Woody, it is chum in the water to sharks. It was so fun to watch them for once with the lead, not have to come down to the last possession of the fourth quarter. So my takeaway is they can win with any quarterback right now, given the way their defense is playing.
Well, I have to laugh at that because Mark Sanchez was here. I don't know that they could win with Mark Sanchez.
They'd be 4-0 with Mark Sanchez, in my opinion.
Well, you could be wrong.
Well, I'm 4-0 picking so far. What are your 2-2?
My takeaway is I told you guys before the season that Paxton Lynch was going to be the quarterback of this team.
Here we go.
Yeah. Choo-choo, here comes that bandwagon.
For the first time
around the corner.
since Reggie Jackson, we've got a new Mr. October in sports, and that would be Paxton Lynch, who I think could be – he should be playing this week. That's my takeaway. He should be playing, not because he should take over from Trevor Siemian. They've got 2 games in 11 days. Why not rest your starting quarterback, go with Lynch against a team that is, 30-31 in defense?
Yeah.
Try and outscore them. I think that the Broncos could have 3 or 4 interceptions with Matt Flynn throwing the ball around. And rest Trevor Siemian, get him back for that Thursday night game in San Diego.
If it were Matt Flynn, would it be right? Matt Ryan's a little better than Matt Flynn. But either way, Matt, 3 interceptions,
Well,
I'll take it.
with Julio Jones, that's ice and thunder. That's what that is.
Ice and thunder.
You know who followed me on Twitter the other day? Reggie Jackson, Mr. October.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Jeff Gordon
like
followed
he
me
should be
today.
following you.
I did an entire interview with him. He referred to me as Tyrone the entire time.
Tyrone Rank.
I saw him at
that's what
spring
we're going with
training,
here.
and he said, "Hey, Tyrone." I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, look, guys, we'll talk about Paxton Lynch and maybe starting the game in just a minute. First, let's get to the injury report brought to you by Xfinity X1. Trevor Siemian, of course, is tops on that list, Troy.
Yes, he's got a sprained AC joint in his left shoulder, non-throwing shoulder. Jimmy Garoppolo had the same thing, but it was his throwing shoulder for the Patriots, missed a couple weeks. This is an injury where he could be ready to play Sunday. It's pain issue when he moves mechanically moves his trunk. Can he manage it? I guarantee you Siemian's going to do everything he can to get on the field, especially after watching the way Lynch played. I mean, let's just call it what it is.
Right.
He can't cede many opportunities and keep the job. And you're looking at Virgil Green. I talked to him at length today. He believes he'll play this Sunday. You look at Stevenson. Donald Stevenson has a chance to play, and Kayvon Webster with a hamstring will play. So they're pretty healthy. If they can get Stevenson back, they're at full strength, Woody.
Sure. Well, with DeMarcus Ware still sidelined for quite a while, the defense has been able to stay intact. And I think that's the most important. They can kind of get by, even at tight end where they're so thin.
Yeah.
And they can get by at running back, in the offensive line, even at quarterback we've seen. But you don't want to lose a Talib, a Chris Harris Jr., a Brandon Marshall. That would be, I think, more critical. As long as they can keep that defense together, I think that's the most important thing in regard to injuries.
Well, that defense, let's talk about that for a minute here as we look ahead to Atlanta. Matt Ryan is the #1 quarterback in the NFL in yardage. The Falcons are the #1 offense in the NFL. And Aqib Talib said it best, though, to me. He goes, I don't care about the numbers. You know, if you want to be the best, beat the best. Bring them on. I think this defense, we talked about it, Woody, on 7 Sports Extra, the confidence that they have, they feel they can beat anybody.
It's like a pickpocket. I mean, they're so confident that they're going to steal your ball, meaning that they're going to have interceptions. Talib is on a roll here, and he was so offended he told you that he was tackled by an offensive lineman.
The center twice.
But if you go and look at the back of last season and beginning of this season, Joe Collier, when he was the defensive coordinator, kept saying 17 points is our goal. The Broncos, in this day and time, in a pass-happy league, 20, 21 points, they have kept teams under that, good teams under that, for what, now about 10 games in a row going back to last year? That is an incredible accomplishment for the Wade Phillips screwdrivers.
Yeah, they're amazing on how they get pressure. I've compared it. They're just this python. Chomps down, and as the game goes on, they just the grip becomes tighter and tighter. And you could see Jameis Winston on Sunday, Woody. I mean, I'm not saying it was deer in the headlights, but he was running for his life.
Oh, he was
Why
beaten.
he was still in the game, especially with 2 minutes left, I have no idea. But they are a team. What I like about it, Lionel, they're not looking for big hits. They want turnovers. They're looking to make plays. And I've covered defenses that get big hits, but that doesn't translate. This team is about creating field position, turnovers. I mean, they're at some, again, we know this, Lionel. On some games, they're their best offensive player. Talib set up 2 scores.
Right. He was responsible for 14 points, basically. All right. The Falcons' defense giving up 31 points a game. 31 points a game. I agree with Woody. And do you agree as well, Troy? Start Paxton Lynch. I mean, Derek Wolfe could play quarterback against this 30th ranked Falcons defense and put up 28 points. Give Paxton Lynch the start this week. Don't rush Trevor back with a bum shoulder. But again, Trevor doesn't want that to happen.
Well, I could guarantee you, Simeon, remember in the preseason, he pushed to play after getting injured and pushed to practice, knowing the job was at stake. So I can only imagine how hard he's going to push to stay in this lineup. I basically just follow the symptoms. That's all. If Trevor's not ready, don't play him. And that's where you get into trouble, is you allow the schedule, the opponent, to dictate somebody's symptoms. If Trevor's not healthy, you start Lynch. I am curious to how teams, once they start game planning for Lynch, he was great in 2-minute, great in shotgun. He was under center more than I thought he would be, Woody. And players praised his poise, said that, while at times his personality comes across as a little goofy, you put him between the lines on game day, he's a baller, man. The guy gets after it. And players know players. And they responded to Lynch.
Right. I would say this, though, and the one thing, Lionel, is I don't think you've got to downplay Atlanta's defense as much as you've got to overplay their offense. And what I mean by that is this is back to the Atlanta Falcons that we saw 2 and 3 years ago that was a threat to go to the Super Bowl. They kind of got rid of that Mike Smith mentality of, we're going to hold you to less than 20 points like the Broncos have. You're playing in a bad division. They have a real chance now after what they did to the Panthers, and the way the Panthers are playing, to win that division, because New Orleans is not very good. And we know that Jacksonville has not turned out to be the soup du jour that everybody thought they were going to be. So I think that you're going to have a very difficult game because they're going to come in here and they're not – this is a veteran team. And they've got a great combination, the best, I think, in the National Football League. So let's don't downplay that. But I do think, and I go back and say it, that Simeon's got to be ready to go to San Diego because Mike McCoy is probably going to be in a situation where he has to win 3 or 4 games in a row, or Mike Shanahan's going to be coaching that team, or Ken Wisenhunt. He's going to be out of there. He's not going to survive that season because this could be their last season there. That ownership is not going to let him get into a situation where he is winning 3 games halfway through the season. So I think you've got to plan for 2 different games coming up in the next 11 days because after that they have 10 days off. That's almost like 2 byes are coming up in the next few weeks.
Right. You got the Falcons, the number 1 ranked offense, and the 30th ranked defense. But that's that in the NFL, the Broncos have proven that's not the recipe to win a Super Bowl. The other way around is the recipe.
But it's a recipe to get to the Super Bowl. He got to the Super Bowl.
But Julio Jones, remember this. The week before, he had 300 on Sunday, right? Receiving?
Yeah.
Guess how many catches he had the week before? 1. You can take him out of the game plan. They're not so diversified offensively that you can't take him out of it. Denver's going to take Jones out of it. So if Matt Ryan is going to beat him, it's going to be with someone without the spy.
Jacob Tammy.
You say that, though, but I have to ask you about that. You said take him out of the game. They play man to man. You really don't overplay with a safety because their safeties, one is always playing sort of in the box, and the other one's playing center field. So I don't know how you take him out of the game.
Well, he may have 4 catches for 62 yards because they're going to have help over the top. You're going to have Talib on him a lot. because Talib matches up against just like with A.J. Green. Do we remember what A.J. Green did against the Broncos? His numbers were okay, but he did nothing
Didn't
really
hurt
of
him.
significance,
Right.
and that's the kind of game I would expect from Jones.
All right, so that leads us now to the keys to the game segment. Keys to beating the Atlanta Falcons. Troy, you got to look towards stopping, as you just mentioned, Julio Jones from getting 300 yards on you and get in Matt Ryan's face. That's my key to the game every week, and it's pretty much standard. If you get to the quarterback, if you get to Jameis, if you get to Andrew Luck, if you get to Andy Dalton, whoever it is, you get to Cam Newton, you win the game.
Well, they got to show offensive balance. What my key is, they ran the ball pretty well in the second half, Lionel. They've got to get back to being more balanced offensively, because whether it's Simeon or Lynch, teams are going to start keying on this quarterback and force him to beat him. And Simeon did in Cincinnati. Lynch didn't really have to. He had a couple nice drives, but he didn't have to win that game once they got ahead. Tampa's offense was so inept. But they need more balance, Woody, from the offensive line. The defense, it's same as it ever was. Just like you said, get pressure, force, and win the turnover battle, which I think they've done, 25 straight games or 26? Win the turnover battle and get it to the fourth quarter where they've outscored opponents 52-13. If they get you to the end where it's close, the Broncos feel like they're going to win because history says they will.
All right, I'm going to go in a different direction because you're right about everything you said, but contribution out of the tight ends and the backup wide receivers. I want to see a little bit more out of Fowler.
You have him on your fantasy team or what? What do you
Yeah.
I don't play fantasy.
Who cares? If Emmanuel has 100 yards and DT has 100 yards, who cares about Fowler?
My fantasies consist of me sitting at home with Cheetos and watching TV. That's my fantasy.
It doesn't involve third string
Game of
receivers.
Thrones or?
So I want more contributions out of the tight end, and I want more contributions out of somebody like a Benny Fowler. That's number one to me. You mentioned the running game. Some sort of consistency out of the offensive line. I know they're switching guys in and out. They're doing okay in the passing game, I think, but they've got to do better in the run game. They're not really opening up holes, I think, for C.J. Anderson, like we've seen even last year with a pretty mediocre offensive line. And third, the defense can't let down its guard. And what I mean by that is, as trite as that may sound, is they're showing a lot of confidence. Well, don't get too confident. Don't get too cocky because you point out this is the number one offense in the league, so you better at least be prepared that maybe they're going to score 24, 27 points. So don't get overwhelmed by what's going on in the game.
Yep, look, hit Matt Ryan 15 times, sack him 5 times, and you win. That's
Broncos lead the NFL in quarterback hits, Lionel. 41 hits. You know what the next best team has?
4-0.
27 hits. They have 14 more quarterback hits than any other team in the league.
All right.
Can I just make one other point?
Please.
Von Miller's being pushed outside. They're chipping him. They're pushing him outside. He can't do that twist move all the time. I would actually put more pressure from that side to free him up. I would put somebody inside him, slide him a little bit more so he can come at an angle.
Yeah. All right. Now it's time for Woody's rant. Although you've been on a rant for the past, 12, 13 minutes. But still, this is your opportunity, Woody.
I saw something I didn't think I'd ever seen in the National Football League yesterday, and that was in Cleveland. And I'm not here to defend and I'm in love with Cleveland Browns. They're going to be the worst team in the league. But their running back goes into the line. He has the ball. He fumbles it. There's a scrum like we see all the time. He's standing there behind there holding up the football. He got it back. And yet the announcers, including Infuego, says, Washington has recovered the football.
And
they're
the
down
Browns
there.
guy had the ball in his hand?
Everybody is watching the scrum, and the guy's back there. It's like a magic trick where the woman appears over here.
Illusion.
My rant is, I don't understand how in the world the officials can figure out who's got the ball under there. So somebody's gouging eyes. It's like the Three Stooges under there. Keep Talib should be in there. The guys are grabbing crotches and grabbing eyes and grabbing the ball. I think that at some point the Rules Committee has to look at fumbles, and when you have 7 guys on top, it's like what we used to do in the neighborhood where somebody would get the ball and everybody would just, we called it, going after one guy. That something has to be done, but if you have not done it, go back and look at the Cleveland game. The guy's holding the football up and they're going first down the other way. Yeah, that's my rant for today. Officials, you missed that play and you may have missed a victory there.
All right. Good one, Woody. Good one. Quickly, guys, let's do our prediction segment. Broncos, Falcons coming up. Is it going to be a shootout? Are we going to see a lot of points scored here?
I think I'm thinking of a number between 29-31 for the Broncos. I think it's going to be 30-20. Broncos over Atlanta. They do a pretty good job of holding the Falcons to fewer points than they're accustomed to scoring.
30-20.
So at one point this season, they're going to hit that score.
They are. And he's going to be a genius, as I told you.
And Lynch is going to be the starter, and Woody's going to be sitting over here saying,
that's how it's going to work out.
I have Broncos winning this game 35-21. I think they go. It's close, probably going early fourth, and they go away. Pick six, turnover. I have them winning by 2 touchdowns.
You got 35-31?
No, 21.
Oh, 21.
No, not 31.
Oh.
Nobody scores on Denver's defense.
Well, I'm going to go 31-28 Broncos.
Ooh.
I mean, look, the number one offense is coming in. I think they'll put up 4 touchdowns.
No chance. Okay,
But,
next.
well, all right, write that down, Troy.
Write that down.
31-28.
And you had, let me guess, 30-20.
30-20.
It's easy to remember my score. In the fourth quarter, every game you guys watch, you're sitting here going, 30-20, that's what he picked.
Every game we watch, we're pulling for the score not to be 30-20, Woody, so we can talk about it on Orange First. All right, we'll see what happens Sunday.
When you play Powerball, do you pick the same numbers or do you pick a different set of numbers?
I just let the random,
okay, all right.
just let them come up.
Just tell it.
Quick pick. Hasn't worked yet, so maybe I'll start putting 30 and 20 in there at some point. All right, we'll see you next week on Orange First. Broncos, Falcons at Mile High. We'll talk about it next week. Until then, have a great week.